Welcome to Andre's Insight, where clarity meets curiosity. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something, well, pretty much everyone deals with, right? Procrastination. We're going to unpack why we actually put things off, look at some surprising types of procrastinators, and see how understanding all this can maybe help us be more effective, maybe even live a bit more authentically.
Yeah, it's so easy to just slap the label lazy on it, isn't it? Like it's just bad habits or you didn't manage your time well.
Right.
But what we found looking into this is that it's way more complex. It seems to be driven by some pretty deep emotional stuff, cognitive factors too. Surprisingly common stuff, actually.
Okay, so if it's not just laziness, what is it then? What's really going on underneath when we delay?
That's the key question. But what the research points to is that procrastination is mainly an issue of regulating our emotions.
Emotional regulation. How so?
Well, think of it like this. You prioritize feeling better right now over what's good for you in the long run. You avoid that task that feels bad or stressful.
Oh, okay. So you get that immediate relief.
Yeah.
Exactly. Instant mood boost. Even though you know it's going to cause more stress later when the deadline hits.
That sounds like a constant internal battle. Like part of you, the rational part, knows what needs doing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's fighting against this other part that just wants, the easy thing, the pleasant thing now.
Mm.
And it totally ignores the future consequences. Like a little civil war in your head every time you face a tough task.
That's a really good way to put it. And there's actually a term for it in psychology, acrasia. It basically means acting against your better judgment because, well, you lack self-control in that moment.
Acrasia. Okay.
And if you look at it from a brain perspective, neuroscientifically, it seems to be about the limbic system. That's the older, more sort of primal part dealing with emotions, rewards.
Feel-good center.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And that part can often just overpower the prefrontal cortex. That's the newer bit, the rational planner, the impulse control center.
So the immediate reward, like watching another video instead of working, it just lights up those reward pathways much more strongly than thinking about, finishing that report that's due next week. The long-term stuff gets overshadowed.
Wow. So our brains are kind of wired to want the cookie now, not the marathon medal later. That's a tough biological setup.
It really is.
Which brings up a really important point then. If our biology pushes us this way, does that mean all that common advice, just break the task down into smaller steps? Does that maybe miss the mark for a lot of people?
Precisely. That's why digging into these procrastination archetypes is so valuable. Generic advice often fails because people procrastinate for really different underlying reasons.
Sure.
You need to figure out your flavor of procrastination first.
Okay, archetypes.
Yeah.
Let's unpack those. Who are these different procrastinators lurking inside us?
Well, a really common one is the anxious procrastinator.
Yeah,
This is someone who's basically paralyzed by anxiety, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of failing.
right.
So avoiding the task actually feels safer than potentially messing it up. It's almost like a defense mechanism.
Yeah, I get that. That feeling where doing nothing seems like the least risky option. Okay, who else?
Then you've got the overwhelmed, this person, staring at a massive to-do list, totally frozen.
Uh-huh.
It's not that they don't want to do it, it's just cognitive overload.
Yeah.
Too many tasks, or maybe the starting point is just completely unclear. They just shut down.
Totally relatable. That feeling of where do I even begin? Okay, next.
Next up is the perfectionist. This one's tricky. They're paralyzed by the need for everything to be absolutely flawless.
Ah, the all or nothing person.
Exactly. They might avoid starting or even avoid finishing because it might not be perfect. Better to not try than to risk imperfection. But the real insight, I think, is that action is what brings clarity.
How so?
You don't just need permission to make mistakes. You need to realize that waiting for the perfect moment to start, that's a myth. Getting something down, even an imperfect draft, gives you feedback. That's way more useful than just worrying about it.
That's a great point. The perfect starting point never arrives. Okay, I've definitely felt that one too. Spent ages choosing a font once for a super simple email. Silly, really. What about the rebel?
The rebel. Yeah, this is someone who puts things off because they fundamentally resist the task itself, or maybe the authority figure who assigned it.
So it's like a passive pushback.
Kind of, yeah. A sort of quiet defiance by delaying. Then there's the imposter. They procrastinate because they genuinely doubt their own abilities, no matter how big or small the task actually is. It ties into that feeling of low self-efficacy, not believing you can succeed.
That sounds tough, doubting yourself constantly.
It is. And then, interestingly, you have the thrill seeker. Some people call this type an active procrastinator.
Active? How can procrastination be active?
Well, these are the folks who actually seem to thrive under pressure. They enjoy that rush of completing things right at the last minute near the deadline.
Whoa, so they actually use the pressure. It's not paralyzing them, it's motivating them.
That seems to be the case for some. They aren't necessarily stuck. They might be strategically waiting for that adrenaline kick.
Yeah.
And sometimes, surprisingly, they manage their time okay and get good results, almost like non-procrastinators.
Fascinating. Okay, any others?
One more key one is the dreamer. Lots of big ideas, grand visions, but they avoid the nitty-gritty details needed to make them happen. Those annoying little steps get put off, so the big dream just stays a dream.
Right, wants the outcome, not the process. That makes a lot of sense. So, quick question. What if you kind of see yourself in, like, 2 or 3 of these? Am I an anxious, overwhelmed perfectionist? Is that even possible?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. These aren't rigid boxes. People often show traits from multiple archetypes. You might be mostly anxious, but with perfectionist tendencies, or an overwhelmed dreamer.
Okay.
The real key is just identifying which patterns are strongest for you, because that's what helps you figure out the right strategies.
Right. And it's not just our internal archetypes messing with us, is it? Modern life throws a lot at us, too. Cognitive overload, willpower. Let's talk about decision fatigue.
Ah, yes. Decision fatigue, it's a real thing. Basically, making too many choices, even small ones, just exhausts your brain.
Like mentally running a marathon.
Exactly. And that fatigue really messes with your ability to make good decisions later on. It can show up as paralysis by analysis. You just overthink and can't decide anything.
In there.
Or sometimes it pushes you the other way. You become impulsive. You just grab the easiest option, the quickest fix, not necessarily the best one.
Like ordering takeout instead of cooking that healthy meal you planned because you're just done making choices for the day.
Precisely. Or sometimes you just avoid the decision altogether. Stick with the status quo because it takes less mental energy.
It's that paradox of choice again, isn't it? We think more options are better, but online, everywhere, it just leads to more exhaustion, maybe more inaction. I definitely feel that email inbox paralysis sometimes.
It's a perfect example, and it's closely linked to this, is the idea that our willpower, our self-control, is like a limited resource, like a muscle that gets tired.
Okay.
Every time you exert self-control, resist a temptation, force yourself to focus, make a hard choice, you use up some of that mental energy.
So if you've been, say, sticking to a diet all day, by the evening, your willpower tank might be low, making it harder to resist procrastination on that work project.
That's the idea. It's like physical fatigue.
Yeah.
Your ability to plan, make decisions, initiate tasks just gets impaired when that resource is depleted.
Wow. And I've also heard about this idea that some people procrastinate because they sort of disconnect from their future self. Like the negative consequences aren't happening to me now, they're happening to future me.
Yes, that's another interesting angle. Creating that psychological distance, it's like saying, that mess, oh, future me will handle it. It offloads the emotional weight in the present.
Okay, so we've got internal battles, archetypes, decision fatigue, limited willpower, disconnecting from the future. It sounds kind of bleak.
It can feel that way, but the good news is understanding why we do it is the first step. Now we can look at actual practical strategies, and crucially, strategies tailored to you. It's about seeing procrastination not as some deep character flaw you can't fix, but as a set of solvable problems.
Solvable problems, I like that. So working with our tendencies, not just fighting them, like for someone who feels overwhelmed.
Breaking big tasks down is still key. But maybe the real breakthrough isn't just thinking about smaller steps, but externalizing it. Making that first step tiny and obvious.
Externalizing how?
Your brain sees that small first step, and the emotional hurdle to just starting gets lower. You can even use tech for this, apparently. Some AI planning tools can take a big project and actually break it down for you into manageable steps. Takes that initial planning burden off your plate.
Interesting. So you trick your brain into starting. What about the perfectionists? How do they embrace imperfection?
For them, it's about redefining done. Maybe done for now is just a rough draft. Practicing self-compassion is huge. Giving yourself actual permission to make mistakes, to not be perfect first try, that can unlock action.
Okay. And the thrill seeker, the one who likes pressure.
For them, it might be about creating controlled pressure. Setting artificial deadlines, maybe using structured work methods like the Pomodoro technique, short bursts of focused work, then a break. It channels that need for urgency.
Makes sense. Beyond these specific tactics, what about our general mindset? Can we reframe how we feel about tasks?
Absolutely. Positive self-talk is surprisingly effective. Consciously telling yourself, okay, this is challenging, but I can manage it. Reframing it in a less daunting way. And mindfulness can be a game changer too.
Mindfulness. How does that help with procrastination?
By cultivating curiosity about your own reactions, instead of just feeling dread and avoiding, you notice it. Huh, I'm feeling resistant right now. Interesting. Then, crucially, you also notice the positive feeling when you do accomplish even a small part of the task. You start training your brain to associate action with feeling good, not just avoidance.
Okay, training the reward system. What about our actual environment? Does that matter?
Hugely. Simple environmental tweaks can make a big difference. Make it easier to start the task, like lay out your work clothes the night before, or open the document you need to work on before you take a break.
Reduce friction.
Exactly. And make it harder to get distracted. Turn off notifications, clear your workspace, maybe use website blockers if you need to.
I've seen some apps that use gamification too, like making it a game to build habits. Do those work?
They can for some people. Things like visual progress bars, getting little rewards for completing steps, or even using loss aversion, like those apps where you grow a virtual tree, but it dies if you use your phone during focus time.
Well,
It taps into different motivations.
Yeah, don't want to kill the tree. Okay, and you mentioned something counterintuitive earlier. Slowing down. How does slowing down help beat procrastination?
It sounds like a contradiction, right? But think about it. Being frantically busy doesn't always mean you're being productive.
It's true.
Busy work.
Right. Sometimes deliberately slowing down helps conserve that limited mental energy we talked about. It lets you recharge. You can make more thoughtful, intentional decisions instead of rushing. That often means fewer mistakes, more clarity, which can actually prevent future procrastination caused by feeling overwhelmed or correcting errors.
That's a really interesting point, taking a problem to sharpen the saw, kind of.
Exactly.
Now, this is where it gets really deep, I think. You suggested this dive could even offer insights into, like, living a more authentic life. Can procrastination actually be a guide? What kind of message could it possibly be sending?
It's a radical reframing, isn't it? But yeah, what if we stop seeing procrastination purely as the enemy and instead saw it as a potential signal, like a diagnostic tool from our deeper self? A signal. What would it be signaling?
Well, think about what you consistently procrastinate on. Is it always work stuff?
Yeah.
Specific kinds of tasks? Social events? If there's a pattern, it might be telling you that those parts of your life are maybe not quite right for you. Maybe inauthentic, draining, misaligned with what you truly value or desire.
Wow. So if I'm always putting off my work reports, maybe it's not just the reports. Maybe it's a hint that the job itself isn't the right fit. Or avoiding parties might mean I'm an introvert trying to live like an extrovert.
It could be. Instead of just beating yourself up about it, you could ask, what is this resistance trying to tell me? It's about listening, not just fighting.
That's a completely different perspective.
And it doesn't always mean stop doing the thing. Sometimes that delay is actually part of a necessary process. Think about those productive procrastinators we hear about.
Like who?
Well, Leonardo da Vinci, for instance. He'd famously leave paintings unfinished for years. It wasn't just laziness. It seems he was letting ideas incubate, gathering more information, reflecting. Or think about Frank Lloyd Wright designing Falling Water in apparently a mad rush just before the client arrived. But clearly the ideas had been simmering for a long time.
Right. And wasn't there an author, Nassim Taleb, who said he used procrastination to decide what not to write? If he kept putting off a section, he figured it wasn't worth writing because he felt no natural drive for it.
Exactly. That's using it as a filter for authenticity and passion. It suggests that sometimes that delay isn't just idleness. It can be part of a deeper creative or intuitive process, allowing things to percolate.
So it's not just laziness. It might be incubation or a signal of misalignment.
Precisely. And if you start listening to those signals, you can use procrastination as a cue, an opportunity maybe, to start redesigning parts of your work, your life, to bring them more into line with who you really are. And ultimately, that leads to way more satisfaction, less of that internal friction.
We've really peeled back the layers today, haven't we? Seeing procrastination not just as a failure of willpower, but as this complex mix of emotions, brain wiring, habits, and maybe even signals from our inner self.
Yeah.
We've looked at the archetypes, the drain of decision fatigue, the power of regulating our emotions.
And hopefully the takeaway is that tackling it isn't about brute force. It's about understanding your specific patterns, the root causes, and then using strategies that are tailored, compassionate and actually work with your tendencies, not just against them.
So here's a final thought to mull over. What if those tasks you always put off, the ones that fill you with dread or resistance? What if they're actually whispers? Whispers from your deeper self, nudging you towards what truly matters, guiding you to build a life that feels more authentic, more you. What might you discover if you really started to listen?